Good evening. Welcome to the January 26, 2021 meeting of the Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Marsh?
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy. Information on remote access to the meeting was posted on the bulletin board, front door, and accessible entrance to the municipal building, and on the Township website.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks to the individuals serving our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen. The clerk will please call the roll.
Mrs. Florence Lynch,
Here.
Mr. Hurd,
I'm here.
Mr. Cole,
Here.
Mr. Phelan,
Here.
Mayor Russell.
Here.
We have a quorum.
For anyone who hasn't participated in one of our remote meetings, I'm going to ask Mr. Brewer to review the format of the meeting. Mr. Brewer?
Good evening, everyone. In light of the pandemic and in an effort to keep everybody safe, this meeting is being held remotely via Zoom. The meeting agenda was posted on the website and is available for review as the meeting proceeds. During various portions of the meeting, whether they be identified as a public portion or an opportunity for volunteers to report, or should the mayor and council open the meeting for public discussion, it is asked that you raise your hand in order to be recognized by the chair of the meeting to then participate. Thank you, Mayor.
We have no presentations scheduled for this evening, so reports from volunteers. At this time, if there are any reports or comments from any of the volunteers serving our community, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized.
Mayor, we have a couple of hands raised. I'll take them in the order that they raised.
Okay.
Mr. Wells, I've called on you. If you could unmute yourself and give your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Joseph Wells. I live at 5 Washington Street, Pompton Plains. Are we good?
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Mayor. I didn't know if you could hear me at this point.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, thank you. It's nice to be in a remote meeting based on the weather today. I think it would be better than trying to
I was thinking the same thing.
Town hall. I come basically about the NYS&W trail, and I've spoken to Adam and I've spoken to you about the subject, and basically I'll just outline the fact that, among other things, I've recently discovered that the county has decided not to have an access into Aquatic Park in their final design. Surprise to me and quite a few people. I wasn't expecting that, and I basically don't understand it, as I've been to, and as you, this council and previous councils have seen presentations where Aquatic Park and the Mountain View Rail Station were the anchors of the trail. They were the bookends mentioned by Kathy DiFilippo recently in a web presentation about the trail. In press releases from the county, access to Aquatic Park has always been mentioned. I don't understand it, and although I have a couple of ideas which I'll just share with you. One is, I think, that the jug handle, the DOT jug handle that we leased back in 2004 to acquire access to Aquatic Park, which was done by a previous council and a previous mayor, seems to be problematic for the county. Have been fully explained, and it was in, it was out. At one time they were going to pave it for us and so forth. But I think the other thing that may be an issue here is real understanding of the trail is very few people have a really good grip of it, in the sense that Mike Dannemiller, a local fellow that was the head of the design team and has given a lot of the presentations, understands the trail. Myself and other people that actually walk and are aware there. I think the county feels that River Road could be an access to Aquatic Park. And what I want to convey is that River Road is not part of Aquatic Park at this time. I hope it will be. But because of the river and its curve just south of River Road, there is no Pequannock property other than the rail right-of-way, which the county has. There is no way to get from River Road to Aquatic Park unless you travel along the pathway and then enter to the east. That's the path that when I did the Riverwalk and the maps that are given out to people and the connections that I'm making right now on the Riverwalk with the North Jersey District Water and the bank property, Cleveland Properties at Stop and Shop. And both of those easements are actually been approved by the parties, and the lawyers are just doing the easement language. So the importance of an access to Aquatic Park, the trail wouldn't exist. And this history goes back quite a ways, but a grant by the town and donations and the impetus of a young teacher at the high school, we created a grant of 700,000, not a little less than 700, for design of a trail. And our motive was to have people not cross Route 23, but have a means to get to Aquatic Park by using the rail pathway. And so we leased the DOT property. But before that, well before that, we transferred that grant to the county, and the county continued the trail down to making it both a bi-county. It involves Passaic County and Marsh, and it's a great thing. But to initiate that trail and not have access to Aquatic Park as a key and initial feature, it's a shame. I got permission from Nathan, the president of the NYSW, to cross the trail, his right of way, before the county actually leased it or bought it. But having it as part of the trail was something I thought would be even better. But to outright deny it, even before you as the council, one of the things that in dealing with the county most recently, they wanted your input. My items on there were suggestions that you would approve or disapprove of. But at this point, it's sort of, they seem to have usurped your authority here by denying it outright to Adam and not hearing any of your comments. I find that, I don't understand where the county would block us from access to one of our own parks. But I'd leave it at this point to if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer. I want to make sure that anything I convey in my contacts, I forward your emails, not just my verbal remembrance of conversations, but actually email responses from the county that indicated they were willing to accommodate us, that they would basically change the construction order, even if the contract were let based on the time element. One of the things that happened is that we were waiting Adam and I reviewed this. I did the trail with the town DPW superintendent, and I spoke to the police, did a lot of things, and Adam and I reviewed it. And basically, I sent the county a copy of what we were going to talk about. I CC'd them and Adam, and then Adam was going to bring it forward to you at this meeting. But it seems to be that was precluded, and I don't understand that part. But I urge this current council to follow in the footsteps of previous councils and mayors to basically advocate for access to aquatic park. And I could say hours more, but I think I'll stop there.
Thank you, Joe. I think Adam has a discussion about it in his manager's report.
That's correct, yes.
So we'll hear more about that. But we do appreciate you coming and keeping us fully informed about this. And thank you for all you do as a volunteer. We do appreciate it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've come before the council many times saying it's coming, it's going to be coming, it's going to start in a year. I think I lost a little credibility there, but
we know how government works, trust me.
Yeah.
It's finally coming, Mr. Wells. It's finally coming.
It's finally coming, and ironically, that positive news is countered by some very negative news. Anyway, thank you for allowing me this time.
Joe, thank you.
All right, Mayor, with your permission, I'll bring the next hand in.
Sure.
Mr. Andrea.
Mr. Brewer, thank you very much. Hello, council, mayor, deputy mayor.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good.
Fine, thank you.
I'm going to talk about the same thing Joe's going to talk about, but I'm going to be more blunt and direct. I met with Mr. Brewer via Zoom recently, I think it was yesterday, and I showed him the different access points to Aquatic Park, from Aquatic Park and a rail trail, and how it would work, you know, nuts and bolts kinds of things. So he is very up on all that, but he needs direction. He'll need a council to say, yes, we want access from the rail trail to Aquatic Park. By no means do we want to do anything to stop the current rail trail progress, but it might be able to be put in as a change order in the near future. But we would like the council's okay that they are interested in and desire a access from the rail trail to Aquatic Park. And as Joe mentioned, if we don't get that access into Aquatic Park from the rail trail, there's no good way to get onto that rail trail. And that rail trail is very close to being done in that section we're looking at near Aquatic Park. That's it.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or?
No, I think the county has told us it's a no-go. And like I said, Mr. Brewer is going to mention later, we do have the option later on. Let's just get this project done. We've been waiting for so long to get it done. And then later, you know, we may be in a position to say, you know what, we'd really like to do an access there.
And I think that's what Mr. Brewer needs to hear from you. And if tonight, that would be fantastic if you could let him know you'd be interested in that access or you want that access. So if the opportunity arises where he can put that kind of input into the county, he can do it because he does have your authorization.
Understood. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.
Mayor, we have one more hand. Mr. Wansik. Mr. Wansik, can you unmute yourself?
Now can you hear me?
There you
Yes.
go. Hello.
Thank you, Adam and all. I'm cutting my comments short because you've heard some of them before, but I was involved as the interim township manager when we actually filed the application back in 1994. The original bikeway project was conceived not only as a bikeway, that was almost a means to an end, but it was also gaining public access, legal access to Aquatic Park, and also connecting all of the other parks along the spine, north to south. And from its inception, Aquatic Park entrance was there. That was a key. Somehow, and I haven't been involved in all the years and all the conversations, but somehow 7 or 8 years ago, the idea came across of paving the lot off of the jug handle as a parking area for the access to the park. And that's all well and good. It wasn't part of our original plan. In fact, we always thought of access off of River Drive, in some form, but that's neither here nor there. Access was the key, and it's always been a key. In hearing that recently that the ambitious parking lot plan was dropped from the final plan, I can understand that because, quite frankly, I've never seen exits off of a federally aided state highway ramp. You have a ramp that goes from one road to another, and there's usually no access on there. So I can understand that. Somebody had a good idea, but it just won't fly. But that still shouldn't have been conflated with access to Aquatic Park from the bike trail itself. All that's really needed is a stub of 20-foot pavement of asphalt, on supported dirt that's bulldozed on the site from the rail track in the vicinity of those of you who've run it or walked it, of the whistle post. The purpose of that is twofold. One, legal access into Mountainside Park and scenic access. And two, it discourages people from cutting through the composting area, which is where most people go through now because that's the only way they know of other than walking cross country through a deer trail. So, what I anticipate is going back to square one, just simply a stub, like we're going to have a stub going into the municipal fields and a stub into PV Park and whatever. Just simple. Somehow in government, these things get blown up large and large, and then they get too expensive. A more formal parking area somewhere down the road off of River Road is entirely possible. Some of that area is outside the floodplain. If they don't want to pave the floodplains there. I'm not wed to the parking lot that was proposed. Great idea if they could do it. But if they can't do it, we still do need a short stub to encourage people to take a safe way into the park. Otherwise, they're going to continue using the composting lot and, dodging the bulldozers and trucks during the fall weather and dodging the kids on their ATVs during other weather. So anyway, thank you for listening. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brewer, any other volunteers?
There are no other volunteers' hands raised at this time, Mayor.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is public comments. This public comment period be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional period for public comment is reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions and comments to 3 minutes. If anyone wishes to address the council, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Please provide your name and address for the record.
Mayor, we do have a hand raised. Mr. Mailer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for recognizing me. My name is Paul Mailer. I live at 29 Arundel Road in Pompton Plains. I'm here tonight representing Propel Pequannock, a 501c4 nonprofit corporation. The following letter was forwarded yesterday via email to Township Clerk Marsh. January 25, 2021, an open letter to Mayor and Council. Following the violent attempt to overthrow the American Republic on January 6, 2020, Propel Pequannock sent an open letter to our fellow citizens outlining the truth behind the sedition. Today, our fears for America are tempered by the now successful transition to power by President Biden and Vice President Harris in their historic inauguration. We share President Biden's call for an end to, quote, exhausting outrage, end quote, but understand we may never be in full agreement with all of our neighbors or our township's leaders. And so we offer the following. We are Propel Pequannock, Pequannock residents of pride, equality, and leadership. These are the American values we share and invite you to embrace. We cheered when in 2018, the senior citizens from Cedar Crest organized an immensely successful Women's March in concert with hundreds of other towns across America. We believe that women's rights are yet to be fully realized in America. We cheered again when in June 2020, a group of students and young Americans led us to March for Equality. We walked proudly with them and hundreds of our fellow residents. We believe that systemic racism is a foundational scourge on America that demands recognition and change. We believe that all lives can only matter when all Black lives actually matter. We believe the Pequannock Police Department serves and protects our community with honor. We witnessed their professionalism during both the Women's March and the March for Equality. We see no conflict between our values as stated here and the thin blue line that we also respect. All we ask of any police department in America is transparency and an end to the blue wall of silence when one of their own does wrong. We believe that white supremacy groups in America should be deemed domestic terrorists and prosecuted accordingly. We believe that America's greatness lies in its multiculturalism and that too often bias among some Pequannock Township residences silences our Black, Indigenous, and people of color neighbors. We seek instead to uplift their voices. We believe in LGBTQ+ rights. We believe marriage should be between two people who love each other. We believe that love makes a family, and that should be enough for any creed. We love Pequannock Township. It is our home too, but it unfortunately has an underbelly of hateful bias. We formed Propel to give voice to that bias as actually experienced by our neighbors right here in town. Their real life stories of bias can be found on our Facebook group page. All township residents are welcome to join. And so we come to you tonight as the loyal opposition. We understand you all represent a more conservative voice, and we honor your right to hold opposing viewpoints. Going forward, we ask only that your arguments are based in truth. As President Biden said in his inaugural address, quote, "There is truth and there are lies, lies told for power and for profit. And each of us has a duty and a responsibility as Americans and especially as leaders who are pledged to honor our Constitution, to protect our nation, to defend the truth and defeat the lies," end quote. So with respect to the offices you hold, we are Pequannock Township, Propel Pequannock, leadership with a dedication to the truth. And so we offer the following call to action presented tonight to you, Mayor, and to the Town Council. Further to our January 25, 2021 letter, we have 3 requests of you, our township leaders. 1, that you issue a statement denouncing the actions taken by seditious insurrectionists on January 6th at the Capitol building. 2, that you issue a statement accepting the results of the November 2020 election that were free and fair as certified by each of the 50 states and the District of Columbia. And 3, that you authorize the formation of a Pequannock Township Social Equity Council, whose mission would be to advance anti-racism as well as anti-LGBTQ+ bias within our community. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you recognizing me.
Thank you, Mr. Mahler. Adam, do we have any other public comments?
Yes, ma'am, we have another hand raised.
Okay.
Ms. Shamber.
All right. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, the screen says my wife, Laura, but this is Randy.
I was
Listen,
going to say,
Amber.
Laura, your voice sounds awfully deep.
Yeah. Thank you for recognizing me, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Town Council. And Mr. Brewer, thank you so much. Mr. Osteich, thank you. I'm also going to read a letter that was sent to the council on January 7th, 2021, the day after the insurrection. Open letter to fellow citizens of Pequannock Township. Follow the attempted coup d'etat last night at the armed insurrectionists stormed our nation's Capitol building. We, the members of Propel Pequannock, which stands for Pequannock Residents of Pride, Equality, and Leadership, offer the following truths as spoken by the Republican and Democratic leaders of Congress. First, Senator Mitch McConnell, Senate Majority Leader, on January 6th, he said, "The voters, the courts, and the states have all spoken. They have all spoken. If we overrule them, it would damage the Republic forever. This election actually was not unusually close. It would be unfair and wrong to disenfranchise American voters and overrule the courts and the states on this extraordinarily thin basis. I will vote to respect the people's decision and defend our system of government as we know it." Also, quote from Representative Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, on January 6th. "We know that we're in difficult times, but little could we have imagined the assault that was made on our democracy today. To those who strove to deter us from our responsibility, you have failed. To those who have engaged in gleeful declaration of this, our temple of democracy, American democracy, justice will be done." Accordingly, that's end quote. Accordingly, we call on our every elected official in Pequannock Township to affirm to our citizens and students these simple but historically important truths. First, that the November 2020 election was fair and properly executed by every state and the District of Columbia. Second, that the domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol building spurred by the presidential calls for violence was seditious and must be condemned by all. Further, we call on our elected officials to recognize the double standard of systemic racism in America. In June 2020, peaceful protesters for equal justice were forcibly removed from Lafayette Park to allow for a presidential photo op. By disgraceful comparison, just yesterday, again, this is from January 7th, so just yesterday, police turned aside as mostly white insurrectionists stormed the Capitol building, threatening the very lifeblood of our republic. Submitted with dedication to the truth, the citizens of Propel Pequannock. I do want to mention too that since January 7th, it has come to light that yes, there were many police officers that kind of turned aside while this was happening, but there were also many, many brave ones that tried to hold their ground and ultimately gave their life. So I definitely want to recognize that since that January 7th letter. In addition to that, I want to second the motions for the calls to action that Mr. Mailer had read in just a little bit earlier. And I do completely agree that we should have a formation of a Pequannock Township Social Equality Council, that we work with our government, with our city, with our township council, with that mission that will be to advance anti-racism as well as anti-LGBTQ+ bias in the community. I attended the march back in June in our own town that was organized by students at the high school. And the stories that were told, I know some of you were there, and the stories that were told were moving and shocking of the bias that happens in our community. And I think it's now time that we recognize this, stop sweeping it under the rug, and we do something about it. And I would step up to assist in that matter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Randy. I want Adam to address some of this, but first I want to say that I believe I speak for all of us when I say we are all opposed to any political violence. We were against it this summer. We are still against it. We all firmly believe in law and order, and we stand behind our law enforcement. Anyone who breaks the law should be held accountable for their actions. Adam?
Yeah, I don't think I can accurately summarize what's going on right now in words. I think everybody's got a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings, and everyone went through a lot and is going through a lot. I think the important thing is to have dialogue. The council and the priority of the Township of Pequannock has been to serve the Township of Pequannock. You know, the residents here receive the benefit of a governing body that prioritizes delivering, the cliches, the highest possible level of service at the lowest possible cost. And we continue to do that. So I appreciate the fact that everybody has participated in the discussion. I know there's been a lot of good things that have happened in terms of people's ability to share their thoughts and have their voices heard without any problem. And I credit the community for all those positive things. So, I think we have a history of prioritizing what needs to be done here. And I am confident from my position as the township manager that it will happen.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Randy.
Yep.
Are there any other public comments?
Checking now, Mayor. There are no other hands raised.
Ms. Marsh, have any written comments been submitted?
There are none.
There being no additional public comments, we will continue on with the agenda. The next item on our agenda is the manager's report. Mr. Brewer.
Yes, ma'am. Transitioning to the items that are listed on my report, which is posted on the township's website. The first item quickly is the proposed budget schedule. Currently, we're holding our meetings via Zoom. There were some questions about whether or not these meetings would be held remotely or in person. I think that's something that needs to be explored. Basically, I just took prior year's budget schedules and tried to marry them to current dates. As the council may be aware, budget binders with appropriations for the current fund as well as capital were disseminated. As soon as the annual financial statements have been prepared, revenues and utilities will become available. So there can be more of a fruitful discussion when we have that initial meeting, which is currently planned for February 20th. If anyone can let me know if they have issues with this, we can try to make changes and proceed accordingly.
I hopefully will not be in Vermont at that time, but I'll try to change my schedule.
Okay. And provided no members of council or mayor, there's no objection, we now have a little bit more technology, so maybe if there's issues, there can be a hybrid approach, again, subject to the approval of the council. Second item, the Marsh County Park Commission bicycle pedestrian path that we heard from some volunteers. This is a phenomenal thing that's going to benefit the township of Pequannock. We're going to get this wonderful path that's going to span, north to south, south to north on the eastern section of the community. Really provides a nice artery for people to get around town without being on streets, whether it's, bicycle or pedestrian. It's been discussed for decades. I think a lot of people are familiar with it. And as Mr. Wells alluded to earlier, it almost seemed a pipe dream at certain times, but finally, now it really is coming to fruition. There's a chronology articulated in my memo, which I'm not going to go into in significant detail because it is in there in writing. But I want to thank Mr. Wells, Mr. Wansick, Mr. Andrea, all the members of the Township Council, and everybody who's been heavy in participating in this in the past, because it really will benefit the community. And it's been significant effort to get us to this point. The challenge right now with the requests that may be made is the initial meeting I had, or the most recent meeting I had in person with Mr. Wells was in December. The county's project, which is estimated to be tens of millions of dollars, was due back initially for bids this Friday. And I believe that had to be kicked forward a couple of weeks due to the issuance of an addendum to answer some of the questions that were posed by some of the prospective bidders. So, we've gone through a long period of time and now it's finally coming to fruition, which is wonderful. I think, subject to the council's approval, and as Mr. Andrea mentioned, direction, that the linking of aquatic park is a great thing. Anytime you can link parks or trails to existing parks and trails, it just benefits the overall system. When you apply for a trails grant to the state of New Jersey, it's one of the priorities they look for. Does this link to anything? Does it provide any sort of additional conveyance to resources that exist? So, as noted in my memo, when I met with the county, the outcome of the action items that were identified was collectively not now, but can be explored in the future. My recommendation is really that we pursue access or connectivity to Aquatic Park at the next most expeditious point. I don't necessarily want to cause the county additional cost. I don't know what the budget is. I don't know what the bids is. As we know with some of our smaller projects, it can get a little hinky. With something of this size, with pervious pavement, all the environmental constraints, this is not a simple task. So even though bids are going to be received, I believe on February 11th now, there's a lot yet to be done. And I believe a priority is to get this thing happening and moving forward. So again, subject to the council's direction, I think the pursuit of access to Aquatic Park from the trail is a significant priority as soon as it's possible.
I agree.
Adam, I think we need to move forward on this and look at this at a later date. I mean, I don't want to hold up this project any longer. It's been going on for God knows how long, 15 years. Let's put it out to bid, and then if we have to make modifications later, we make modifications later.
Agreed.
Agreed.
All right, so just confirming my understanding of direction, I'll circle back to the county and I will let the county know that the Township Council and the Township of Pequannock does prioritize connection from the NYSW Trail to Aquatic Park, but getting the project built is the major priority, and perhaps that can be pursued maybe during the construction, but if not, thereafter.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Sounds good to me.
Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on to item C, solicitation for concession providers. As we've done in prior years with the various municipal events, to remain compliant with various statutes, we do solicit proposals for people to provide food at our activities. So that is scheduled for the council's consideration and potential approval and resolutions. 90 Village Road as directed. The sale of 90 Village Road will be undertaken again. I believe March 3rd is the anticipated opening date if council approves that this evening. Ms. Marsh and I will proceed with the necessary notice, notifying everybody as we've notified him in the past, and try to solicit some interest in that property. With respect to the Pompton River desnagging project, again, discussed for some period of time, it's now been completed. There was a tremendous.
Congratulations.
If anybody was able to see what was going on, I've heard from some residents, there was an enormous amount of material removed from the river. Challenged as we are, we can't do the Wayne side, but we did do as much as we possibly could. They did go further into the river than halfway, which is why there's a recommended change order from the township engineer and me of approximately $6,000 on a $100,000 contract, approximately both of those numbers. So if the council sees fit to authorize that, we can move forward with final payment.
Absolutely.
Unless there are any questions or any other issues, that concludes my report.
Is there a
Awesome.
sign
Thank you very
going
much.
back up on 90 Village?
I'm sorry?
Is there a sign, or was there a sign on 90 Village at one point?
There was. We're going to put it back up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, there are no public hearings scheduled for this evening. There are no ordinance scheduled for introduction at this time. The next agenda item is resolutions. Ms. Marsh.
Beginning with Resolution R 2021-59, awarding a contract for a concession provider for various events of the Parks and Recreation Department to Thin as Inn, doing business as Columbia Inn, in accordance with the request for proposals. R 2021-60, approving change order number 1 for the Pompton River desnagging project, increasing the contract with Grade Construction of Paterson, New Jersey by $6,410.57 to a revised contract price of $115,000. R 2021-61, authorizing the sale of certain property owned by the Township of Pequannock, that is Block 2306, Lot 20, not required for public purposes pursuant to NJSA 40A:1213A. R 2021-62, authorizing the cancellation of the Reserve for Site Improvements Trust Fund. R 2021-63, authorizing the acceptance of a hold harmless agreement from Freddie and Marianne Bingler for Block 3301, Lot 22, otherwise known as 170 Boulevard. R 2021-64, authorizing utility office payments, overpayments, refunds, overpayments, or cancellations 2021-65, authorizing release of deposits for special sales. 2021-66, authorizing release of designated escrow deposits. And R 2021-67, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the January 21st, 2021 bill list and 2016 FEMA elevation escrow list.
Are there any comments on the resolutions from council?
Yes, I have one on the bill list. It's 68038. It's for 1,390 for storage charges on, I believe, one of our police vehicles that was involved in an accident.
Mayor, if I may, Councilman, if there's a question on the bill, with the council's permission, I recommend you pull it from the bills list. I can do some research and circle back with information at the next council meeting.
That'd be greatly appreciated.
We're storing a vehicle that was destroyed?
We're paying for storage for a vehicle that I think was involved in an accident that may have been totaled.
It should sit behind Town Hall with the rest of them.
Okay, so let's
Other than
pull
that, I'm
that
good.
one out.
Mr. Cole, could you just give me either a check number or a vendor, or,
A PO, how about that?
that's perfect.
PO number 85411, Police Department Tahoe storage fee, $1,390.
Sorry, could you repeat that? That was 85411?
85411.
Okay, thanks.
I'll report back to council at the meeting on February 9th.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one, I'm sorry, just real quickly. 21-63, obviously that was, I mean, from what I read, it seems like there was no issues at all with letting them use that easement for 170 Boulevard. Obviously, we have a hold harmless agreement. There's no possible issues that come up with that, right? That was all vetted.
More often than not, these are sought when issues are discovered. This is actually a resident that's asking permission. So these
Right.
have not yet been constructed. No, the construction official and the zoning officer have no issue. The desire is to put a shed and a
Right.
fireplace on the resident's property. So it's not on municipal property, but there is a municipal utility easement. So
And
the benefit of the hold harmless agreement is should the municipality need to get access to that easement to make a repair and the property owner's improvement is damaged, it is not the municipality's.
great. Thank you for the explanation. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yep.
Is there a motion to adopt these resolutions, pulling out bill PO number 85411?
I'll
I'll
make
make
a
a
motion.
motion. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution R 2021-59 through R 2021-67, not including PO number 85411 in the amount of 1,390.
I'll second it.
Oh, that was quick. Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Hurd,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Phelan,
Yes.
Mayor Russell.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, next up, there are no items listed for discussion. There are no reports or notices. The next item on our agenda is council reports and announcements. Councilwoman Florence Lynch.
Yes, I don't have much, just wanted to mention any upcoming meetings. The Economic Development Advisory Committee will be meeting tomorrow evening for the first time this year. An agenda and email did go out, so that will be tomorrow evening at 7:30 via Zoom. The Flood Control Advisory Committee, they won't be they did not meet in January, so their next meeting will be the second Thursday of the month in February. And the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, their first meeting of the year will be held February 1st at 7 p.m. So I'll follow up with the chair of that committee to make sure that that meeting is taking place. They did not meet in January. And that's it.
Councilman Hurd?
I have nothing to report for today other than it's cold and DPW did a great job prepping all the roads. So
Didn't they? It
Oh,
looked
yeah.
amazing.
yeah, it
Yep.
did.
Councilman Cole?
On February 14th, Company 2 had their Zoom meeting. Nothing really exciting happened there. And then on February 22nd, I did go on a tour.
Do you mean January?
Yeah, Dave, come on.
Sorry,
You were saying
You're
February.
rushing
I'm
in
like,
here.
wait a minute, did I miss Valentine's
January.
Day? How did I miss
Wait a
Valentine's?
minute. Wait. Let me make sure I got these dates right. Yes, January 14th.
Okay.
And I went on a tour last Friday of TVSA. Very well run, very clean and neat, and it was quite the tour. So if anybody wants to go on a tour, they told me that they're more than welcome to reach out to me or reach out to them. They're more than happy to give tours. So
I would love that.
it's very
Let me
interesting.
know.
Yeah,
It was
I would
fascinating,
actually
actually.
like that.
yeah.
Have you been, Ryan? Or no?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah,
It's
I would
fascinating.
love
It
to do
really
it.
is.
I would say it's probably better to go on a colder day than a hot.
Yeah, I'm not going in July.
Yeah. But it was very interesting and very well run. So that's all
Awesome.
I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Phelan?
Dave, they're a great organization. None of my two committees met, so I have nothing to report.
For myself, library meeting went well, virtual events going strong. The new board, the same board will be staying on. Same thing with environmental. The Mayor's River Cleanup is Saturday, April 10th. Once again, great job with DPW. Also, Parks and Rec is looking for lifeguards. So if anybody wants to be a lifeguard, feel free to contact the Parks and Rec. And I read an interesting story that a friend of mine had posted. And I was going to talk to you about this, Adam. I completely forgot. But his wife had COVID and still has a problem smelling. And she had it in March. And I guess he came home and she had went to start cooking, but she didn't turn the burners all the way on. So the gas was coming out, but she couldn't smell it. So I was thinking maybe our health department could just put that possibility out to people or something, because he said if he hadn't come home, it would have been, could have been worse, because he came home and he said he smelled it right away. And she's like, I don't smell anything. So
I think the health department has done a phenomenal job of putting pretty exhaustive information up on the website. So it's something that can be included in literature.
right. Oh yeah, they've done a great job. Another kudos to them. I mean, just,
Yeah, and as
the way
the
this whole
council
town came together.
Yeah, and as the council and mayor know, and others in the public may not, we also serve 4 other municipalities with health services. So there's a pretty good outreach that we provide information to. So, that and some other concerns people may have about the ongoing effects, I'll make a note to ask that be included.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that's it for me. Next on the agenda is public comment. If anyone wishes to address the council, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Please provide your name and address for the record.
Mayor, we have hands raised.
Awesome.
I'll go in order that they were raised. Mr. Andrea.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. I just want to thank Mr. Brewer, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council for giving us the permission to look into that or pursue that aquatic park access from the rail trail. I think the way that the manager, Mr. Brewer, worded that was perfect. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
And I also wanted to let Councilwoman Florence Lynch know that the Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting is February 2nd.
Oh, did I say
Normally-
the wrong day? I apologize.
No, that's okay. No, we normally met the first Monday of the month, but the
Oh.
planning board meets then too. And since we're using Zoom, we yielded to the planning board, so we got the next day.
All right, and
Second Monday.
So
of the month.
going forward, it's going to be Tuesday.
As long as we're using Zoom, yes.
Okay, we'll make that, we'll have Carol make that change on the website, I guess. Right, Carol? Can we do that?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you all. Bye.
Thanks.
Okay, next we have Ms. Taylor.
Hello, Council. How are you?
Good. How are you,
Good,
Sharon?
Sharon.
Hi,
How are you?
Sharon.
Oh, hi, Sharon.
It's been a
to
while.
meet you. Hampton Plains, Pequannock section, New Jersey. How's everybody doing?
Good, yourself?
Very
Good.
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 In there, right? So I know it's been a while since I've attended a meeting, and I hope everybody's safe and healthy. I just had a few questions. One is for Adam regarding the budget for 2021. Because the year 2020 was so much different, and I'm sure our expenditures changed. Some fluctuated in some areas, and some, I'm sure we were able to save some money. Will you be showing a reflection of the difference of expenditures for 2020 and then how that's going to apply to 2021?
Do you want to list all your questions and then we'll answer them at a later date? I don't know how the council wants this to be handled. Want me to answer now? Whatever.
If
Give
you
your
know
best
what,
shot.
Sure. So the issue with 2020 was more of a revenue collection issue than an expenditure issue. There were some expenditures held back from a capital perspective. The budget process always includes a year-over-year comparison of appropriations. So it will be evident in that process. Moving forward, you know, we have some concerns associated with revenues based upon the impacts of COVID-19 and the associated restrictions. So it's going to be a challenging budget year.
Okay, and then I know that you touched upon the subject of possibly, you're not sure if you're going to do the budgets at the township hall or if you're going to do them via Zoom. Do you foresee, or when do you foresee township council meetings opening back up to the public at the township hall?
Good question. I don't know the exact answer to that. I think we need to see what's going on in the world.
Okay, and then on top of that, with the Zoom meetings, have you seen there's more participation with township residents, or is it the same as what it usually is during in-person council meetings?
I can only speak for 2.5 years of experience in the township of Pequannock, or 17 or 15 years of experience in 4 municipalities. I see attendance fluctuating based upon the subjects being discussed. So if there are things people want to talk about, there's greater attendance both in person and on Zoom. And if it's virtual, same thing. If there's things that are people interested in, you have great attendance, and otherwise it's very limited. So it's almost consistent with how it's been in the past.
Okay. I would just suggest to the council to keep that open-minded, that when we are getting back into the reality of life and everything opens up again, hopefully sooner than later, that you do have council meetings that are in person, but that you do offer a Zoom meeting while the council meetings are going on at the township hall. This way it would allow residents that aren't able to make the meetings and people that want to go in person, it opens up the doors. I know in the past, there's not a lot of people that attend unless if it's a big town issue, but I think that would be a great opportunity to open up doors for the township, you know, residents to feel comfortable whether they want to go in person or do a Zoom meeting.
Okay, thank you, Sharon.
Great
And
idea.
one last thing, I just want to steal Councilman Hurd's thunder earlier. I want to say the township, between our DPW, our police department, fire departments, first aid, they have done a phenomenal job all year. It has been a difficult year, but just another idea for the council. I know that while things are on Zoom meetings, that maybe there's a way each month you can incorporate someone from each of those volunteer departments to give them some recognition for something that they have done. And I think it's just very important because everybody's worked hard. It's been a very emotional year, even the previous year, and there's been some changes, but I think that we shouldn't lose the essence of recognizing the most important part of our volunteers in the township.
Yeah.
And that's all I have. So have a good evening, council.
Okay, thank you, Sharon.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon.
Mayor, we have another hand raised. Ms. Dempsey?
Good evening, Megan Dempsey, 10 Della Avenue in Pompton Plains. Thank you all for your time. And I just wanted to briefly speak on behalf of the Pequannock Democratic Committee to say that we support the statements that were shared earlier by Mr. Mailer and Mr. Shamber, and greatly look forward to further discussion on establishing a social equity council or something similar. We certainly appreciate that the council works for all of the residents of Pequannock, and we see that being happening all of the time in what's being done. I think this kind of a council will be an opportunity to make sure that truly all of the voices, even the divergent or sometimes silenced voices in town, are also being included. Thank you for considering it, and have a great night.
Thank you, Megan.
Mayor, we have a few more hands raised. We have Propel member.
Hi, my name's Grace Johnson at 16 Vermont Road in Pompton Plains. I'd like to ask how the council will be handling the bus situation. The bus that arrived at PD Park and took citizens from town and out of town to the rally in Washington, D.C., which turned into a siege on our government. Who approved the parking for these people? Will the bus company provide a list of those citizens to the FBI? My neighbor now has COVID, so we have seen an increase in COVID in our town after this situation, and there was no contact tracing. I personally contacted the police department and the health department, and nothing was done about this. So I'd like to know what the town, what you guys would be doing. Thank you for listening to my question. I look forward to your answer.
Adam, do you want to discuss that?
I'll wait till we get to the close and try to keep notes on everything.
Okay,
We have two more
sounds good.
raised. Okay, Ms. Camp.
Hi, my name is Karen Camp, 40 Bant Ave, Pompton Plains. I was just wondering when we can expect an answer to Paul Mailer's question about a statement, written statement from you guys about the insurrection on January 6th. Will you be issuing a written statement, and what would the timeline for that be? Thank you all for your service to this town.
Thank you, Karen.
I'm sorry, somebody just had their hand raised and I bumped the wrong button. So if you had your hand raised previously and I unraised your hand by accident, if you could just double check that and re-raise your hand, and I'll get to you next. Mr. Wansik. Mr. Wansik, you're up. You have to unmute yourself.
Son of a gun. Okay, thank you to council just for supporting having an opening in Pequannock Park, however we get it, if we can't get it now, prioritizing it. And thank you, Adam, for your for very well worded statement there.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, and once again, ladies and gentlemen, I believe there had been one more hand raised. If that individual still would like to participate, I apologize. I may have bumped the wrong button instead of allow to talk, lower hand. So if you could just re-raise your hand and you can be recognized. All right, Mayor, there are no additional raised hands at this time.
Okay, thank you.
So the question was posed regarding the use of the parking lot at PV Park, and there was a request made, as we receive requests on a regular basis, to allow for parking to take place from a variety of people who are residents to go to a variety of destinations, from parties to avoid parking on public streets and congesting neighborhoods, to individuals traveling to destinations like Atlantic City and other places. So there was in fact a request made. The matter was reviewed with the township attorney, and based upon past practice and associated departments, the request was granted.
Okay, so moving on, we have approval of minutes. We do not have any minutes presented for approval.
Mayor, before you go on, it looks like there's a couple questions that were typed in. I don't know if Carol, do you see those in Q&A, and then there's something in chat?
Are they, I think they're supposed to go to public comment, no?
Yes.
I don't know that we could address a chat.
Okay.
Is that correct, Bob?
Yeah, I don't think that's our typical practice.
Yeah, there's also, Mayor, an additional hand raised. I don't know if you want to open public portion back up. I leave that to you and the council's discretion.
We still have executive session we have to get into. That's gonna
Yeah,
take a while.
we have closed the public comments for tonight. You're more than welcome to come back. You can send something to Carol and read it if she can't. We've moved on from public session. Next on the agenda is closed session discussion. Mr. Usteik, will you please explain the procedure for holding the closed session?
Sure, Mayor, we'll do. When we meet live, there comes a time at the end of the meeting, typically, when at most meetings, we have to have a period of time to go over confidential matters. Because we're meeting on Zoom, we will not be able to do that live. When we are live, we ask those who have joined our meeting to exit, so we're able to do that. And tonight, we'll ask those who have joined our meeting virtually to exit our meeting virtually so we can continue our meeting virtually. Tonight, we will be discussing two items. When we are done, we will go back into open session, but we will take no further action on any of the items discussed tonight, Mayor. And with that, we'll need, I guess, a motion to go into closed session.
Is there a motion to approve Resolution R 2021-68, authorizing the Township Council to meet in executive session to discuss potential litigation?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No action will be taken following the closed session. At this time, the public portion of this meeting is recessed for the closed session. We are back in public session. Mr. Usteik.
Thank you, Mayor. In closed session tonight, the council was brought up to date on a pending litigation matter, and direction was given to the manager and the township attorney.
There being no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a
that
motion.
Second?
Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned at 8:15 p.m.
Everybody have a great day.
Good night,
folks.
all.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Good night, everyone.